Hey everybody, welcome back to the Kurt Locker. I'm Kurt. Today I have Matt Porter PhysEd, and we're going to be talking about Porter PhysEd. We're going to talk about Matt's history with gym equipment, some of the reasons he got into it. We're also going to cover coatings in depth, barbell coatings. I know that for me in my gym, I just got the Blazed Lone Star Power Bar, which does have PVD coated sleeves, and I have conversations with Matt over the phone a couple times, probably a month, and they're fascinating conversations. He has a wealth of knowledge. I want to get Matt's take on future trends. Where are things going as far as coatings and customization and all things Porter PhysEd? So, Matt, thank you for coming and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So, Porter PhysEd is a small company. Basically, from what I understand, you're it. Is that
Yeah,
true?
pretty much I'm the grunt work, dude. I have my best friend from high school. He helps me with the financial portion of it, but other than me and him, that's it.
And if you actually look behind Matt, he has a stack of boxes. This guy is always busy. Recently shared a photo of me, or sorry, not a photo of me, a photo with me of his home gym, his garage gym, just with a giant crate in there. And he is fulfilling orders, kicking butt, doing great things. So, Matt, can you give us some background on what created Matt Porter's garage gym? What created Porter PhysEd? What inspired you to take on this monumental task?
I mean, it was really something that kind of sort of happened by accident. Always been into like working with my hands, doing kind of DIY stuff, doing it on my own, and kind of I want what I want. And I was creating some DIY stuff, and then I was seeing people like Kurt and people like Kyle. Kyle is in DIY, and seeing what they were doing on social media, and decided to kind of share a little bit of what I was doing. And Kyle happened to kind of share one of my posts, and then it kind of popped off, got 80,000 views, and thought that was pretty cool. So I started like posting a couple more DIY projects, and then I started making stuff for the Bells of Steel Tower, and people kept asking me, I'm like, "Will you sell this thing?" Because they wanted it. Said no for a couple months because didn't really want to deal with like shipping and actually making and fulfilling all the orders. And eventually, I got so many people that were wanting it, decided to start making it, selling it, and get all that going. And now it's been a little over a year, fulfilling tons of those orders. You can see like there's like 30 boxes behind me that all need to go out this hopefully tomorrow. And then I've been working on just some different projects, and I'm always trying to make my space what I want and what I want, well, like to use. And I don't like to compromise, and like I don't like something that's like if it doesn't work the way I want it to, I'm gonna keep tweaking and changing and trying to improve on those different things.
That sounds awesome. I know that really when I became really more aware of you was specifically with I believe it was the Bells of Steel single cable column. Is that
Hmm.
correct?
Yep.
And you made, I believe you had some arms coming off of it that essentially made it a functional trainer ish, but it was basically a functional trainer on a budget. And I can really appreciate trying to tune your gym space to what you want. I think
Hmm.
that a lot of people out there want something that works for what they want to do. They don't necessarily always want to do things because that's what it was designed to do. They seek inspiration from a single cable column and they build, in your case, an entire business off of it. So, which is amazing. That's great. I love to see it. But was there any reason that like DIY in particular was the direction you wanted to go? Like you kind of mentioned that you were handy and that you did things
Hmm.
with your hands. And you enjoy working with your hands.
Yeah, well, basically, I'm a teacher, so it's like I funds are always tight, and like I mean, obviously, don't make enough money as a teacher, so I always have some sort of a high side hustle. I worked as a personal trainer for a few years, did like online coaching and things like that, just to supplement that income. And then I've had a couple of different things that kind of like got me to like wanting to do more of the DIY projects, things like that. My brother that actually recently just passed, he was really into like way more into DIY and doing stuff like that than I was. And I ended up borrowing his welder, and just I told him I did one little project I wanted to do. Told him I'd have it back to him in 2 weeks. I kept the welder for 8 months. Got really good at using this cheapo Harbor Freight welder that was like 150 bucks, and then started posting more and more content. And all at the same time, while this stuff was happening, a lot of different things started happening to my family generally. My wife, both our parents passed last 2 years. My brother passed, my uncle passed, and then a lot of stuff doing it with my hands was like very therapeutic for me, especially the welding. And as orders came in, that gave me something like to take my mind off of other things as well. So it's like And the biggest thing is like I just seeing the helping other people. I always wanted to help. I mean, being a teacher, like I want to see people succeed. I want to see people to be healthy for a lifetime. That's my whole goal. I mean, physical education teacher, teaching elementary school kids, trying to get them to make sure they're healthy forever. And if I can help other people with their home gym and get them into this space, that was something that I like. It was thought it was super cool, and didn't think it was gonna take off or anything. I thought it would be like I'm doing 1 or 2 orders, get them done. It'd be a couple weeks, not trying to blow it up and make it a full on business. And now I get emails like constantly, like almost every day. Like right before we got on, I've got 2 emails I need to answer now when we get off, just asking me questions about what I'm doing. Um, and as a teacher, like for all the different projects that I'm making, I don't have that big of a space since my garage is not that big. I don't have that much money to be able to purchase the latest and greatest like Rogue thing or Rep thing. I have to use these smaller pieces, and then how can I turn that smaller piece into what I want it to be?
I think that makes a lot of sense. That's cool too. That is also a unique thing and something that's a little bit more common, I think, in the gym space and the small business with gym spaces. The amount of teachers
Yeah.
that are actually in the space. So I think the one that comes to mind is Sean from Bear Steel. We got Big Rob over at Vintage Weights
hmm
PGH. We've got,
Yep.
and Rob's also a retired Air Force. He's a veteran as well, so it's kind of double dipping there.
Yeah. You
But
got
it seems
Luke.
like,
Luke's
oh yeah,
garage.
that's
He's
right,
yeah,
Luke.
teacher
Yeah,
as
Luke's
well.
Garage Gym. He's a teacher. So I have up your product line here, and it seems like a lot of what Porter PhysEd is focusing on is attachments. So we have like the fly. This is like the original one, the fly arm attachment.
Yep.
That's like the one that got you famous. And then we have a lat pull down attachment, lat pull down with leg holder bundle. We have the leg holder attachment, which is incredibly handy for trying to keep yourself down, especially once you
hmm
start to get
And you can
to
find
heavier
way more
stuff.
ways to use it too.
I bet, yeah, split
Yep.
squats. I know that a small innovation that was really cool was when some companies started putting holes on the back of their benches so that you could put a leg roller on it. This is taking that same concept and doing something different with it. So these 8 products to include these hats. So really these 6 products seem to be kind of the core line of what Porter PhysEd has to offer. And for those listening, you can go to Porter, what is the website? So
It's
Porter,
porterpef.com.
there it is. Yep, porterpef.com, and you can check all these out for yourself. The one that's the newest right now is this Eclipse grip, which I just got in the gym the other day, and I've been using it a lot with my flywheel trainer, and definitely liking it for a single attachment with a nice swivel eye, something that has been awesome. But is
Yeah.
there anything like how do you approach the design process? So like what makes the Eclipse grip unique? What makes your stuff unique and how do you design it?
The biggest thing is like I have a couple injuries I work around. Especially for like talk about the Eclipse grip. When I was in high school, I actually broke my hand in 8 different places, and I basically, if different things put like torque on my through my wrist and my hand, it'll cause a lot of pain for me. And all these other hammer handles have always been like a lot longer, and then I also want to have something that I could support my hand with, because like the balls for me, like I always like slip off of them, and I'm like it's not something that I really want to use to like push against. And for me, with being a trainer for a while, like if I'm focusing on hypertrophy, I want something that is going to be as stable as possible, and I can really like push through and focus using the muscle that I want to use. Versus like if it's longer, I'm using a lot of my wrist, and like it's just something that's not what I want. So this handle, it's very short. It actually is from the handle to the base is all one solid piece of aluminum that is anodized black, and the top is a swivel from Egg Weights that I actually went through them, and they actually kind of basically help give us a slight discount as well. And then that's one of the reasons why it's such a I think it's a nice piece because like it really is kind of refines all these different things and dials in these a lot of these different things that I wanted, particularly for just for me. But because it's so short, you can get your hand as close as possible to the eye of the swivel. So when you're doing your movements, you don't feel all that torque going through your hand, and you actually can do different things where you can turn it, and even when while you're turning it and twisting the handle, it still feels comfortable in your hand because you're so close to the actual connection point of the cable itself.
So this would be like that thing for when you're at the gym and you resort to just grabbing like the ball of the cable attachment itself. This is taking that, but making it to where it's a nice, comfortable attachment. I can't tell
Mm-hmm.
you, and again, this isn't the Matt Porter like PhysEd channel or anything,
It's
but
just,
I can't tell you this is probably one of the nicer pieces I've held recently. It's made out of aluminum too, which is really nice for being lightweight because sometimes those steel attachments, maybe not a hammer style attachment, but steel attachments tend to be heavy. They also tend to, if once they weigh too much, they'll pull down the cable
mm-hmm.
stack as you're moving the weight pin around. So this is nice, made out of aluminum. Like you said, all one piece construction. And I will also validate the swivel on this thing moves effortlessly under load, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what factors? So, I know that you said that you design things that you want, but is that essentially the prioritization? So, Matt Porter is working around something or trying to make something better, and is your theory here like if I want this, then somebody else must also want this? Because to be honest, that's the whole format with this whatever this is, whether it is a
Mm-hmm.
podcast or just content, is this is the kind of conversations I love having, and I like to watch these. So I'm doing this because I like it.
Yeah.
So is that kind of what you
Yeah,
go with?
so the way I kind of do it is like I'll end up making something and then I'll kind of like just throw it out on social media. And if people seem to like it, then I will end up like if enough people basically ask for it, then I'll make it. So I made a post a while back and kind of a DIY way you can make a hammer handle, but it was still like a longer one. And then I just kind of suggest like what things I could actually do to kind of fix that. And I figured like I'll just do a small run of them and seeing what's out, seeing if people were interested. And I said I'm right now over half of what I've actually made have actually sold. So I mean, and I have had pretty much everyone has gotten me good feedback on with it as well. Um, and then I think we had on there the TNT handle that's on there. That's from the Fringe Belt Squat. The other thing I look at is if companies send me something and then if I get the product in hand and if I like it, like if there's something that just feels like it's missing, then I will end up just making that piece and then kind of pitching it back to them or like kind of making it myself and making it a product. But specifically for that one, as I'm squatting, like I have my hands like they're going all over the place and like and then I'm thinking like every time I always squat, I'm holding something. Like if it's a barbell or if I'm doing like a regular belt squat, there's something to hold on to. If really any movement, you always have something you hold on to brace with. And I see people holding on to like kettlebells or trying to use their dip horns. And to me, I didn't really like the dip horn attachment just because you could, as you're using it, if you pull up on the dip horn, you could almost do like a lat pull down to pull yourself up out of the movement. Versus this, because the handle itself is part of the system. If it doesn't really matter how hard you pull on that handle, your legs have to stand you back up.
Yep. And did you, just out of curiosity, did you call this a TNT handle because it looks like you're hanging onto a hell box? And did you know that that's what that's called?
No, I did, but that's basically what I thought. It was like, oh, this kind of looks like it's the plunger for
Yep.
TNT.
So
I'm like, yeah, it's
those are called hell boxes. I'm a bomb technician. I know these things. Hell boxes were traditionally used. There was a magneto inside of those. They're actually really
mhm.
cool when you get to the history of it. And it would spin up and create enough current to actually overcome the bridge wire in the blasting cap. So very cool. You're definitely piquing my interest. Anything explosive related, and you basically win with me. But yeah, a lot of amazing stuff here. I love how I get videos all the time of you experimenting with lever arms and different crazy attachments. What kind of, so how do you balance training with development of product?
So from all of my training, I basically wake up at 3:45 in the morning, and then my time is from 4 to 5. I have an hour to train. It's usually before I have emails to answer and those things like that. So that's kind of like how I make sure I can get in what I want to get in, like basically my goals in. But if I'm in the gym and I don't have like a plan or something, I'll find myself, I'm like, oh, I'm over there like taking things apart and actually like making something else. And I'm like, so I usually have my logbook, I have my little plan that I'm working on. This is what I'm doing, and I have everything set up. And then I try not to deviate from that. And then I actually will program in at the end of workouts equipment testing. So it gives me like it's in there. I'm accounting for it because I'm gonna do it regardless. And I'm also on like if I make something, I want to make sure the thing's not gonna break. So I'm gonna try to load up as much weight as possible. Have buddies come over, literally like hang on the thing, literally try to break it. And if we can't break it, then hopefully that's good enough. I mean, there's always people that, I mean, if I send something over to like a Brian Shaw, like I'm sure that he can break something that I'd send out. I'm like, but these things aren't meant for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would argue that some of them probably are. I can't tell you that from the reviewer point of view. I do pride myself on, I do not commonly, but if I do feel like of the content creators that do reviews and home gym stuff, I could probably break something more than some of the other guys, not because of strength or anything like that, but just because. So we're recording this on a Thursday. Tomorrow, I'm actually releasing, probably almost nobody will watch it, what it's like to train while also doing content reviews at the same time. And in that video, I actually kind of talked to myself about how I don't use equipment the way that people intended it for it to be used all the time, because I do enjoy trying to come up with new ways to use existing
Mm-hmm.
pieces. And as a result, sometimes stuff breaks. So no, I super appreciate that you go through that kind of stress testing though. Do you also do custom gym equipment?
Yeah, so if somebody reached out to me, if they have a particular problem, it sounds like kind of sometimes they just try to articulate what they want, and I have no idea what they're talking about sometimes. But sometimes it can be a little hard to like, what do you actually want and need, or what they're trying to ask for really can't be, at least for my means, can't be done. If that's the case, maybe I reach out to somebody else that can help them. If I send them over to Dean or send them over to somebody who has a little bit more equipment than I do. But a lot of times, if it's a particular thing with the Bell's Tower or something that I personally have, I can get that thing custom made for them. It's going to take a little while to get it made, and they have to wait on it a little bit. There's a full-time teacher trying to figure out how to do all this at the same time. But yeah, if they reach out to me, just email me, and then work together, get up a price, or get at them, kind of drive them in the right direction of how they can actually get the thing they want.
Gotcha. Do you have any examples of like custom things you've done that you can share?
I actually just helped his name is Billy. He's actually going to be working with FNF making, I think he's naming it the Cable Buddy. But he wanted a kind of in between like prototype before he's going to work with FNF to actually get this thing made, and they're going to be producing it. And it's just a little kind of like small cable attachment that can like you can put your handles on top of it, and it gets you in a better position to start from. And he wanted one. He wanted one that was made out of steel. And I was like, I can help you with that. I actually put them in contact with FNF to see if they wanted to actually make it a product. But I made him the prototype, and he's been using that. I think he currently has it up on his Instagram as well. Iron, I forget his name. It's
I was gonna
Iron.
say iron something.
Yeah, but yeah, that's one that's a pretty recent one. A few others too. Like a lot of times it's people that are like I have somebody that's like a 6'8", so the current lap hold on attachment is not going to work. So I've made him a custom one that's taller.
Very cool. So when you say the lat pull down attachment, you're not talking about the bar. You're talking about
The
the
actual piece that goes
extender.
on top of the Bell's Tower because it basically adds about 10 inches of length or where the pulley wheel would start for you. And people that are 6'8", nothing's made for them.
No, not at all. Nope.
Yeah, so it's like I told him like my stuff basically if you're 6'4" or under, it's probably gonna work. If you have 6'4" and you have like really long arms, you may have to have a slight lean back or have a box or something to sit on. Your bench might not work for you, but it'll work. But once you get past like 6'4", I'm like, we're not. I mean, most people aren't gonna be trying to market to these people in particular because like you're looking at such a small portion of the population. We want to get that like 5'8" to 6'2" range is kind of what for like guys like they kind of make. We want to get the big majority of people that are going to be able to use it. It's going to work well for you. But you start to get really, really short, you get really, really tall, nothing ends up like working for the
Yeah.
more custom pieces.
Yeah, you're unfortunately just kind of in that boat where you need the custom thing. So apparently Matt Porter's your guy for that. Super cool. And I can definitely relate. I don't build anything custom, but I do refer people when they ask for custom things. A lot of times to Dean over a Black Widow. If someone asked for an attachment, I'd probably be like, you need to talk to Matt. Or if they asked anything about bells of steel cable towers or just any single cable column for that matter, And I've definitely referenced you specifically in conversations with other brands when they talk about refinements that they want to make to their cable tower. It's pretty common that the first thing I have up on my phone is Matt Porter's Instagram page, and I'm showing just how much you can do with a
Hmm.
single stack.
Yeah, and that, well, this is speaking of other brands too. This is kind of a separate thing with the business. Like I actually do quick turnaround prototyping for companies as well. So if they have a specific idea they're working on, but they're an overseas manufacturer, if they reach out to me, I can get like a one-off made for them, just so they can kind of like dial in all the little like potential problems with it. So they kind of will send me like a rough sketch or like a just a rough render, and then I can work on making that. I've done things like that with Bells of Steel, with Fringe. I have a couple things. I'm actually currently working on some stuff, potential stuff with Griffin as well.
Awesome. And are you like turning your own knurl, or like are you doing all this in depth? I do know that you do some forging too, right?
Yeah, actually, I have a knife in front of me if you wanna. Yeah, it's just I when I'm when I have a spare minute, I will actually take it out, and I actually made a Dakota fire in my backyard, so I actually can forge out knives, and I usually just give them as gifts. It takes me months to make them because I have no time. So it's like go out there, just bang on them for a little bit, and then kind of just work on that, slowly
So we
getting
need
that in.
we need a I need to like nominate. I'm going to secretly nominate you for Forged in Fire or something.
Okay.
Get just for like the I don't know, because I think a lot of people watch a 40-minute episode of Forged in Fire and they think it's easy, but I can tell you I've never done it, but I've been around when it happens, and I know one guy that has half of a front tooth and now wears a face mask whenever
Yep,
he
I had
does
full face
anything
mask.
for. Yeah, because he had a piece of blade come right
Mm-hmm.
back and smoke him. Like I don't remember which one it was. But
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying. Do you turn your own knurls as well? Just out of
I'll do.
curiosity, of the capability.
I have a lathe and I actual if I'm doing small, like if I'm doing like a one-off thing, I can do it. But as far as like my handles, that's actually something I'm working with FNF for, just because they have the ability to like get it done in like a mass production or more mass production than I can. And they actually have the in-house anodization, so I don't have to hook up the electrodes and everything and try to get that done. Yeah, I can do like I'll do one, and I was like one is enough. But like the way that I'm doing it is like it takes so much longer. It's such a just such a pain. But I have like I said I have my lathe. It can't really do steel very well because it's such a mini lathe. But I can actually
Okay,
get aluminum done, like woodworking, things like that.
gotcha. I have access to a metal machining lathe, but I've only ever used it to make things of not a home gym nature.
Just
So
make
I
sure you don't
totally
wear
get it.
gloves with it. You'll get your hand sucked right in
Yeah,
there.
for sure. Yeah, I've seen some of those terrifying videos too
Yeah.
of like the yeah, we won't get into that. That's
No,
that's
no.
terrifying to think about. So you talked a little bit. Have you done anodization at the house too? Because I know that there's ways to do that, and it's actually really interesting. You can do some pretty cool coatings with anodization. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this was to talk coatings, because something that you recently have talked about a lot is physical vapor deposition, or
Hmm.
PVD coatings, and you were doing this forever ago, like absolutely. And I don't exactly remember when. It's got to be over a year was the
Yeah. Well,
first time that I probably heard you talk about it, and it's been interesting for me because in my Bells of Steel SS4 review, I specifically referenced the titanized
hmm.
coating, and I had to Google that because I didn't know what the heck that meant. And even after talking to you, I'm pretty sure I still don't know what the heck that means. So let's talk PVD. Let's talk about coatings. Let's get into the thick of it.
Yeah, so I'll kind of start from the beginning with that. This actually may have been the first thing that I was like on social media, like I wanted this to be a thing. I actually sent it out to a couple brands. This was back in 2021. Had a couple brands message you back, and some of them had no idea what I was talking about. But I liked the spider drill bits that you get from Lowe's. They're like a blue and purple coating, and it looks like they call it a proprietary coating. So like, what is this? Kind of figure out what it is. Kind of went down that rabbit hole, and then for that coating, that one is a aluminum titanium nitride. And what you're actually seeing on the screen right now, this is one of the sleeves that I ended up coating. and this ends up being more of like a rose gold copper type color. But this is actually I have to make sure I get all the names correct on these things. Is a titanium aluminum carbonitride,
Gotcha.
and you have
So
other company. Go ahead.
let's actually back this up just a little bit more. Let's first talk. There's a again, this is one of those things where a
I've
lot
got to
of
be
big
going
words.
on change it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you tend to move really quick with this, which is great because you're super knowledgeable about it. But what is physical vapor deposition? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, so what that means is they basically are going to have a chamber. They're going to put something in, and then they're going to have something called a wafer or something they call a silicon disc, where they have this material that'll be on this piece. And then they're going to use some sort of means to basically turn that material, that substrate, into a vapor. And then that vapor is going to be deposited onto some other material. It can be put onto like silicon chips, like your phone and stuff like that. It'll actually have this stuff on it. The thermometers that they used for like the infrared thermometers, those will have actually PVD coatings in them as well. So there's lots of different industry these things are in, but the biggest one that they're in, at least the one that I kind of found them by, was in high grade drill bits and like machining things like that. And then the spider drill bits from, if you want to go to Lowe's, look at a cool blue drill bit, go over there and check out those. But once they heat up that substrate, it will go into this chamber that's in a vacuum, and then it will be deposited on that material. And depending on what the substrate is, you can change the hardness of that material, you can change the color. It has all these different properties. You can make it where it's highly corrosion resistant. You can make it where it is, you can get some where it's like a level 9 Mohs hardness for these materials, so like extremely hard to scratch, pushing up there with like things like sapphire. And it's one was like, if there's so many applications that are all these different ways you can use it. And I'm just thinking it's like on a bar. I'm like, if you put that on the sleeve of a bar, you put whatever color you want on it, plates on and off. If it can use this such hard material to cut through metal, and then the coating doesn't really come off, like literally like go like machining through metal. I'm like, just putting a sleeve on and off is going to do nothing to this thing.
So, if I'm summarizing what you just described, PVD coating is a process of doing a coating where, in a vacuum, also known as space, so in space, we will take and heat up a special product that usually have cool sounding chemical names
Yep.
that will then turn into a vapor. And then with the sleeve properly prepared and heated up in outer space, but obviously just in a vacuum. But I just think it's fascinating that it's essentially the equivalent of being in outer space.
Yeah.
They apply this. This is actually like metal, like a
Hmm.
tight, nice coating in this case is being vaporized,
Hmm.
turned into the atmosphere that exists within the space. And
Hmm.
then it essentially attracts to that material and hardens it. And that is going to give you no more of this powder coat scratching off business. And it also is just so freaking cool. Like some of the colors that you get are just wild. And all that's based on different chemicals, right?
Yeah, it could be chemicals, it could be the thickness of the material too. You get into like some light diffraction of like what actually comes back to you, what you see. But it's one where like I actually have one in front of me. This is the one you just had up on the screen, but you can see more of in a real life. So this is the titanium aluminum carbonitride. So it's going to be that rose gold coppery color. And I've been using this sleeve for about maybe 6 months now. And basically, like, there's no scratching on it at all. I actually hit it with a wire wheel. I need you to post that video, a brass wire wheel, and kept it on there for 10 seconds. And it basically did nothing to it.
Yeah, can you hold that up in the frame and
Yeah.
just kind of hold it still for a second? It looks really good. I've given you the big screen here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as you can
and
see.
again, a very cool looking. Would you describe it as kind of like almost like a copper color too? I'm sorry if you
Yeah,
already described the color.
copper, rose gold type color. And you can actually, like,
So
there's additives you can
Patrick
put in
over
this.
at Bridgebuilt. Patrick over at Bridgebuilt, check this out. This is right up your alley, brother. Like this is what I'm talking about. These are your new sleeves. So you can make other colors based on additives. Is that what you were just saying?
Yep. And I have another one here. This one actually is a fail. So this one actually got ran with drill bits as well. So the temperature, because one thing is the process to get this thing basically the substrate vaporized, it has to be certain temperatures, and then because they ran it with all these other drill bits which are much smaller, the sleeve didn't never got to the temperature it needed to be for the material to actually to adhere to it. So this actually should have been a blue color. You can see where it started to get it on the edges where it would get a little hotter. And then if you can see on the inside, you can see the blues and purples that where you would get it with it was
I
thinner.
love that. And I
But
know it's a fail. I totally get that. So even with that being a fail, does it still retain some of the properties of the material? So does it have a little bit of the uh, kind of the scratch resistance, all that kind of stuff, maybe just to a lesser degree, or is it basically just a total fail?
yeah, so it actually has a lot of the same properties as well. I mean, the only thing is with the way I made these, because I wanted to put these on a bar, and then I decided not to do that, and I wanted to put them on my lever arms. So I actually had to use a extremely abrasive, basically a highly abrasive sanding disc to get the section off on the sleeve here, and actually weld it on pins to make it where I could use them as a basically my lever arm loading pins. But that was such a pain to be able to get that literally just get that material off to be able to get clear material to be able to weld onto. And then one of the interesting things that happened because being I was rushing and wasn't paying attention. This sleeve was actually very close to the other sleeve when I was welding that one. And even having like the weld BBs hit this, there's like tiny little marks on it, but like it nothing adhered to it. It had, I mean, it almost was even the super hot metal hitting it and literally like staying on it and sitting on it, me not noticing it was hitting it. Literally, you could just take once it cooled down, literally just wipes it off, and there's tiny little marks, but like in frame, you probably can't even see what I'm talking.
No, but basically you're just describing like the little slag bits, right?
Yep,
And a lot
exactly.
of times from what I've welded before, those slag bits, you have to take a wire or
hmm
maybe even an angle grinder to get them off, especially if it's like bare steel. So
hmm
it's obviously maybe not a total fail, but still a very cool coating. So I have pulled up here, I have we were talking about colors a little bit. So this is the window of basically all things. I'm silly. I don't even know why I'm trying to describe what this is. What are we looking at here?
All right, so we can actually look at the one at the very top here. So this titanium nitride, this is probably the first one that got into the home gym space. If y'all are familiar with the Midas bar from Fringe, that's their all gold colored bar. It still has all these properties where it's super highly durable, doesn't really have a scratch. It is one of the cheaper options, so it is the easiest one to get on something. So it'll actually keep the cost relatively down. And when I was speaking to Peter about this when I was at Home Gym Con, we actually had a conversation. We were probably chatting for like an hour and a half, and I was like, we was literally just chatting about this stuff for like forever. And he told me the way he found that is he found a bolt on the ground, and he was looking at it, and this bolt had been or maybe a nut or something, and it had been sitting out in the elements, and it looked perfect. And he was like, "Why does this look perfect? It's been sitting out here. He has no idea how long." And then he started to go down the rabbit hole as well, kind of the same type of things, like, what is this from? How does this work? And when he reached out to his manufacturer, he found out that was actually like a considered a cheap coding and cheap process. And he was like, "Well, can it be done on this?" And it they got their Midas bar going, and it's been like I know that for him, it's been really nice seller and everything. And it's like if you like gold, like it's gonna be on
I
there,
love
and it's
gold.
it's gonna be there, and that's pretty much the way it's gonna look. I mean, it's probably 10 years before you'll see anywhere on those things.
That's awesome. That super cool. And yeah, so like what other applications can we look at? So we're looking at barbell sleeves for one, and maybe let's stay focused. We'll get to that in a second. Let's walk through some of these other ones because there's another part of this that needs to be considered, and that's actually the heat level that you have to preheat the sleeve or whatever you might be
hmm
heating to actually do this coating. So can we talk through that a little bit as well?
Yeah, so it depends on what what coating you're doing. But you see on here, you'll see the thermal threshold, they have ranges of what it can be. But sometimes these temperatures can get so hot that it actually could change the tensile strength of your steel. So that actually can limit a couple of the options that we could use these coatings for. Things like your actually shaft of your barbell. A lot of these coatings aren't going to be the best option for that because you want those specific parameters for that bar. And if you start heating these up to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it actually will start changing the structure of the steel and potentially could make it a harder material, so you have less whip, and or it could make it where you actually will lose its the basically the springiness of where it will come back from bending. So
The
there's all these
resilience.
different like parameters that you don't want to mess up because that's if you want a bar, you want it to function the way you want it to function. And the main thing for the bar is going to be the shaft of what are your purpose for? Are you using for powerlifting, weightlifting, general purpose? What do you want that bar for? If you start putting these coatings on that, you are going to start changing those basically parameters of that bar, and could potentially make catastrophic failure for the bars. But on
Yeah,
something
we don't
like a
want that.
sleeve, because you're looking at something that is it kind of just more just sits there. It's not really doing the majority of the heavier the main lifting part of it. It just kind of sits there on the end of it. It's a perfect application for that because that's also where your high wear points are as well.
Do you think that this is something that maybe if we were to look at some of the lower temperatures, and if we're looking into that thermal threshold, the less expensive version, that titanium nitride, is still heating the shaft itself, would have to be heated to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Is that correct?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
So this is something that would have to be done because a coating is done after a knurl is turned, right? You can't turn a knurl on something that's been coated because then it would strip that knurl. So do you think that there's anything that would stop this from being used on a shaft? Like, for instance, would it jeopardize the feel of a knurl? Like, are we talking like molten steel here, or what are we talking?
No, it's not going to be hot enough to like literally just melt the steel. It's more of just the like a feel and things like that. The other issue
Gotcha.
is these chambers are primarily meant for very small things.
Not
So
6 foot barbells.
yeah, the barbell won't fit in them. So you have some of these issues where like the temperatures are going to get up where it's going to have some issues with that. You have other issues where it's going to be end up having where like you just can't fit the thing in there, and they would have to create completely from scratch chamber that's only meant for barbells. And a lot of these coders are trying to get as pack as many things in to these chambers as possible. I should have sent you. I should have sent you this picture. It was of my sleeve in the chamber. There are literally hundreds of these drill bits like piled in different rows around my sleeve, and my sleeve is literally like taking up a giant section, removing them for basically getting at least another like 50 drill bits in this chamber. So they actually have minimum requirements. There's like a minimum run of your sleeves. If you want actually this happen, I actually use this particular company. I think it was like for me to have them just put this in the chamber and just taking occupying space in the chamber, it was like $250 for one sleeve. And that was them being like super generous because they already were like, hey, we could throw it in. We actually didn't fill this chamber. Normally, it would actually be way more expensive. This also was something that was done in the US versus overseas. So if they're having something dedicated, or if they can get more, like if they can fill the chamber and actually get more items in there, then you have like the threshold that gets reduced as well. But that's the biggest issue. Like they don't make these things for a barbell. It barely can fit the sleeves themselves.
Gotcha. One area I think that would be kind of cool. Now, in the home gym, you have your core four or whatever you want to call it, right? You got your rack, bench, barbell, plates. One part that I think could be really cool for some PVD application would be the bolts that hold your rack together.
Hmm.
Because again, we're sometimes as you build these things out, you get built out what you need, and then you really start to just kind of build what you want.
Hmm.
And would that be something that's possible? And if
It
so,
already
like what
exists.
kind of colors? It already exists. Of course, it
Yeah,
already
look up
exists.
bells of steel. They're bougie bolts. It's already a thing.
Bougie bolts.
Yeah.
Looking it up now. So yeah, And
I
then
think
what color? While I'm looking this up, what colors can we get using
so.
PVD?
Yeah, there. I mean, there's pretty much basically whatever color you want, you can make it. It may cost more to do different things, but just in like what's out there, like without having to do additives and just get it going, you can do blues, purples, like a rose gold, the black, the like the Rogue and the Rep, their proprietary slick coatings on their sleeves. Those are a type of PVD coating. You can get black a couple different ways, so I don't know exactly way like what particular way that they used it, but if I was kind of just guessing, it would be an aluminum titanium nitride that had additives to it, and that can get you that more matte black look. And this was something that was interesting. I'm gonna go off on a tangent. I made a post a while back on a bar that my buddy got, and it was one of the matte black sleeves with the stainless steel shaft from Rogue. It was when they first came out, and his started to rust. And with me knowing like what this is, I'm like this shouldn't happen. This is a coding error. And then they actually had spots in the coding in these little sections. It looked like things didn't get cleaned all the way. So he was actually having little tiny rust spots all over his shaft of his bar. And that was something that it's something I posted about. I'm maybe frustrated because I know what it can be. Since then, Rogue has actually dialed that in, and it's no longer an issue. But it was one of their early runs with this stuff. But pretty much as far as colors go, it's pretty much whatever you want, and you just have to kind of get the chemicals to like what chemicals you can put together to make those different colors, and what hardnesses you can get out of those colors or out of those chemicals, and the difference in thicknesses too, because a lot of these coatings are literally microns thick. They're
Yeah, it's
extremely,
nano.
extremely thin. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, they're just like 2 to 4 for titanium nitride. Do you think
Yep.
that titanium nitride coatings is going to kind of be what PVD manifests itself as, and then titanium nitride will be supplemented with different chemicals to make colors, or like what's your speculation there?
There's going to be other chemicals that get added into it. So the titanium nitride is kind of like it's just the easiest one for them to do, but there are all these other different ones as well, and there's like the way that it's different arrangements too. So I'm pretty sure based on just talking like there's a like the Fringe Austin bar that's going out. They just dropped it. They're doing a limited run on their bar that they're describing that as a chrome, and it's a blue chrome. So to me, like that's not going to be anything with titanium. So, but to get chrome to make it where like you'd have that blue color, it would be a aluminum chromium, and that is applied through PVD process as well. I actually think they're selling themselves short by just calling it a chrome because people are like, oh, this is a chrome, but it's more of a PVD process that's using chromium and using kind of like piggybacking on like chrome is a very hard material, and they're kind of like they want like it's a cool color as well.
Yep. It is a cool bar. I have it up
Hmm.
right here. Yeah, there it is. Yep. And that blue coating is also very similar to what I'm seeing on another barbell from Blazed.
The blazed one
But
though, because of their can you pull that one up? Because I haven't looked too much into that one. I think that's a different coating because there's little sections where it looks yellow, I believe, right?
yes, towards the shoulder,
Yeah.
Lone Star PVD plus Cerakote. Coat. I think this is the right one.
I think all these companies are gonna be mad at me. I'm just
Yeah, yep. Here we go. Yeah, see right there on the shoulder.
yeah, but you can see how like
Oh, there we go.
that coating looks different. It's a different color. So that I this one is probably that aluminum titanium nitride. So you're gonna have a slightly different color with it, and then based on temperature, then you get those different colors. Like that's the same thing with mine was, but they basically had the opposite effect that I had, where they got everything to temperature, and then those thicker pieces were the sections that didn't get to temperature or they went above temperature. So they would be like that yellowing.
Yeah, that yellowing color is really visible in this photo here, and it's definitely right there. And this is a PVD coating, and I can tell you, just like you tell the example of how you took a wire wheel, I also took my weighted out plate and did, a little bit of ASMR or asthma or whatever the heck that's called, just trying to see what would happen to the PVD coating. And don't get me wrong, it leaves a mark, but fairly certain that that's the plate leaving residue, and it wipes right off. I've got my barbell rescue stuff out there, and I just use that little microfiber towel that comes in the barbell rescue
Hmm.
thing, and
Eventually, if
it wipes
are
right off.
your weighted out plates the painted ones, the powder coated ones?
I have a mixture of his cast and his cut. So the more my change plates right now, he is actually sending me some of the other ones because he sponsored the Strongman Throwdown at Home Gym Con.
Hmm.
So he's our weight supplier. So he's sending me some of the 25s, 10s, 5s, and maybe 2.5s of
Hmm.
the new cast. But yeah, the sharper ones, even those like my 10s, it's not busting it off.
Yeah, it eventually will wear like your if there's any burrs like that, you'll end up cleaning off your like you're making your sleeves
Yeah,
nice and clean on the inside, but
I have
actually
a
your
file.
plates. Yeah.
Yeah.
The but a lot of times it's the paint that's coming off, or if he has like a zinc coating or something like that on those sleeves, it's gonna remove that too. It's gonna be harder than that material.
Would you
But
put a zinc coating over the top of something like this just to give it that little bit of extra, do you think? Or do you
no,
think it needs it?
no, because it actually that's gonna be a thicker coating, and then because that's through electrolysis too, it might not even work because it could be it may not make it where it won't even like adhere to that surface.
Yeah, because you would need a kind of a bare. I mean, it is a metal product, right?
Hmm.
Because like a
Yeah, it should be conductive
vaporized.
and everything, but it's like because of the chemical properties of it, I don't know if that would work, but I also don't think it would give you anything extra. But you may do it the opposite way though. So things you can do with this, and like this is something that I'm still trying to figure out if I can make this a thing, is you can get this on aluminum. So aluminum is very soft metal, and you can get scratches and dings in those in that material very easily. You can increase the hardness of the aluminum by anodization, but if you anodize that material and then you actually would put it through a PVD process, and you can just get whatever color you want through the PVD process, and then now your aluminum that would have been a super soft metal that's gonna scratch and ding up really easily would actually have this extra layer of a hard material over top of it that's just a tiny, like, I mean, microns thick. It could be a very interesting option for these or different cable attachments, things like that. And if you do cable
I'd love
attachments,
to.
they're smaller, so you might be able to like get more in there and kind of mass produce them. I did look into it as far as mine.
I was about to ask, did you look into
Yeah,
it for the Eclipse?
that was the original plan, was to actually go and get them PVD coated. I still might do one just because I want to. Um,
Do it for you.
yeah, that's
The golden
yeah,
Eclipse.
yeah. Actually, I'll probably use the do like the rose gold.
I was just gonna, I mean, I
Yeah,
was just gonna make some sort of. I was trying to make a total Eclipse of the Heart joke there,
yeah,
and I didn't go rose gold, but yeah, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
something
But
fun.
yeah, it's something that would be unique. It would be the only one out there. But I don't know how it would work. I know they do put this on aluminum, or they can put this stuff on aluminum as well. So it is something that could look into. But as far as getting it done, and because mine was going to be like U.S. made, it was going to be a cable handle that would have been like my cost, like $200. And I'm like, I'll do that for me. But if I'm going to make a buck off this, I mean that means it's going to have to be above $200.
Yeah. Can you imagine the outrage?
I was like,
And
why?
then somebody would make it overseas, and then we'd have to deal with the home gym cancel culture of you copied me and my stuff, which
I
nobody
mean,
wants that
you never. I
business.
mean, what's that? Kinsui made their tungsten plates. They were like $8,000.
Yeah, no, you're right. I kind of
Yeah,
forgot about
and people are
those.
like, "What in the
Gosh.
world are you doing?"
Hey, somebody has at some point, if you make them, somebody's going to want to collect it. And then
Or
I
if
like
it's
to,
or it's a tax write-off.
or it's a tax write off.
And they're trying to reduce their actually profits for the year.
Oh, I found pictures. There we go. Okay, hang on. I got to share this. We're on the Google machine here. I just got to share my screen again. I mean, they're cool. They're
Yeah,
super cool,
they're
man.
definitely interesting. I would be really concerned with them cracking.
Oh,
These are PVD coated too. These aren't the tungsten plates,
so
but
there's tungsten ones too?
yeah, so these are actually PVD coated plates. This is the titanium nitride.
Gotcha. Let's see what Google does when I don't put a space in.
Yeah, there's your. It's right
So these
at the
ones.
top there.
No, those are
No,
calibrated.
the ones that are like they look smaller. It's up higher, right above
Gotcha.
your right there.
Those
So it's
mamma
basically
jammas.
45s are the size, like width-wise, of like a 10-pound iron plate.
Oh wow, yeah. So
Yeah,
these are
so
like weighted outs on steroids. Oh, because they're tungsten.
yeah,
Tungsten's an incredibly dense
way,
material.
way, way heavier material and way,
Yeah,
way more
tungsten.
expensive material.
Is there anything with coatings that you're looking to like specifically kind of get into for any of your stuff? Like is working with maybe Fringe or maybe some of these other brands like Bells of Steel, like you've done in the past, is that something that perhaps is in your future to
I
maybe
have been
license a
talking,
product?
yeah, I have been talking with Fringe a little bit with like coatings, and then because me and Peter talked about it for so long, and my business partner, this is a separate story that makes me sound pretty stupid, but I looked into these coatings forever, and I'm like, it's been like multiple years, and then we start Porter Visit Fitness. He's kind of the backing of it. He's a chemical engineer, but that's all I know. I know that he talks about like wafers and things like that, and then I finally made the catch, and I'm like, are they use wafers in this PVD coating stuff? I was like, hey, what do you actually you do with your like what is your actual job? And he was like, oh, I do PVD coatings onto silicon, and I'm like, I am so stupid. I could like you are a actual expert on this versus a I'm an internet like expert warrior just go doing the Google searching and everything. And he
Hey,
actually had
sometimes
yeah
that's how you learn it, man.
yeah, and he actually he actually knows the like one of the world experts in these coatings. So I have like a way I can actually connect to the people that are actually like the person that basically like part of the the refining portion of this stuff. He's the one that did like made that, and he actually worked with the company that my buddy works for, and so he actually has his email and everything. We've talked like I've chatted with him or chatted with him back and forth, and I'm like, this is like if I would have done this earlier, like maybe I actually could have gotten something out there and gotten into market versus like just like trying to figure it out on my own. But definitely like in that process is a something I do like trying to like learn this stuff on my own. That's kind of how I learned how to do all of my just DIY stuff, just trial and error.
Yeah.
But
I
it's one
love
of
that,
the
man.
yeah,
That's
it
the
was
way
one of the
to do
had
it.
a really big resource that no idea was there. Little was my business partner, my best friend from high school. I'm like, I am so stupid.
I don't know why, but it reminds me a little bit of oh my gosh, what's the Christmas movie where like every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings? It's a Beautiful Life.
Yeah.
Because in A Beautiful Life, his best friend in high school, the hee haw guy, he goes on to make like the stuff that all the aircraft use for their canopies. So kind of like a similar story,
Hmm.
and it worked out pretty well. And It's a Beautiful Life. I mean, he got everything he wanted, and everybody helped him pay his bills to shore up his debt or whatever it was at the end of the movie. So, dude, I hope that works out for you too. Sometimes the right people fall in your lap, and I can tell you, and I'm not just trying to stroke your ego here, but I'm just absolutely happy for you that that's something that's in your corner. So, Home Gym Con's coming up. You're going to Home Gym Con, I imagine,
Yep.
right?
Definitely.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I believe code KL10 will save you 10% on your ticket prices. Did you have a code?
Nope. No code for me.
No
I
code for Matt
will
Porter.
have some prototypes being debuted there.
Ooh.
I talked to Jake, and I'm still trying to figure out the logistics, everything. But if I do kind of like rope in with another company, I'll make sure that I get some Eclipse grips there too, just so people can try those out as well. But the whole plan is I'm actually going to have something there. It may be potentially being made and actually being sold before then, but it will kind of depend on pricing things and getting it actually like priced out. But the goal is I'm gonna have stuff there. I've already talked to people, so it's like if I can get it done in time, it'll definitely be there, and it shouldn't have any issues with that happening. I won't. I'll say this. I do have a prototype made. It doesn't look very pretty. So worst case, that will be there. I think there may be the final prototypes for bells too. I need to talk to Kayvon and see because they are going to be taking over the production of the lat attachments, the fly arms, and the belt squat attachment that I was selling. It'll be a while, but that will be something that will be a transition from my stuff over to their stuff. But I need to talk to him to get that going. I'm hoping that the final versions of those will be there too.
And they're taking care of you, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean,
was
it's
gonna say, Kayvon, I know he brought you to Home Gym Con last year, did he not?
yeah. That I told the story on the Do You Even Lift Bro podcast where they
Yeah.
lost
Is
my.
this the attachment you're talking about too? Sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, nope. That's a separate thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So that's not the one. So that's still yet to come.
Yep,
the one you're
that's
describing.
yeah, mine hasn't seen any light of day or anything. It's more just behind the scenes. I have to hide it in
Fancy.
it's like over there on that screen.
Of course,
Yeah.
conveniently.
But yeah, yeah, it'll have that there. But I mean, I'm definitely going. I'm very excited to go.
Yep. And then the story about you getting home gym cons about you basically driving overnight
Oh
across the
yeah,
country
that
from
was
Florida, right?
yeah miserable because my buddy's in the one that's my business partner. He's in Charlotte, and we were gonna fly, and then Bell Steel lost my prototypes. They had ones they made in China. They shipped them over to me. I was dialing in all the getting the make kind of like just this is things that need to change and get fixed. Those prototypes were not very good, so it's probably a good thing that they didn't get there. I think it would have probably been potentially a negative. Um, but I shipped them back to Indianapolis. They thought they were return product, and then they actually shipped it out to get recycled.
Oh, no.
So, or they think that's what they think happened to it. So those they disappeared. They couldn't find it. But Kayvon reaches out to me on Instagram. It's like super late, like 11, 12 at night, like just a couple days before Home Gym Con. He's like, "Hey, we can't find your stuff." And I'm like, "I'm flying." And I'm like, and how can I make sure that something of mine gets there just so I can kind of get my name out there? So like, basically, the day before I drive up there, I stay up to like 3 o'clock in the morning, literally like welding everything up, getting everything painted, and then driving 8.5 hours to Charlotte, and then driving from Charlotte all the way over to French Lick, Indiana. As it worked out though, I ended up coming back with a Smith machine and another rack and another bar and spotters and basically whatever I
That's
could fit in
awesome.
my truck came back with me. So if y'all are gonna
Yeah,
come
that
to Home
is.
Gym Con, I would definitely recommend like maybe flying there, rent a U-Haul, and drive that back to wherever you're going, and kind of reach out to these companies and see what you can get at a discounted rate.
Yep. I know that that's kind of one of the things I regret because as the strongman promoter, I show up with a giant truck. But there's two problems. One, strongman stuff is heavy, so I
Hmm.
definitely not overloading the rider truck. But what I can say is that the rider truck is the little sticker on the side that says what you can put in there. You can put more than that. And then the other problem is I'm so busy the entire time I'm there that I never record content. I was super proud of myself last year because I recorded 30 seconds of content, which is 29 seconds more than I recorded the previous year. That is a 3,000% increase as far as I'm concerned. And I'm definitely not going to be able to maintain that for this year. But yeah, you won't be competing with me on buying gym equipment because
Yep.
I'm I'm
Yeah,
just
you're tapped
focused
out.
on other stuff. I'm
Yeah, that
tapped.
was
Yeah, and
that
at
was
the
the
end of
thing. I was
the
in the grip competition, and because I'm trying to like talk to these company owners and kind of like get my business going, I would do the event and then go off and just wander around, talk to people, kind of make connections, and then I would get my buddy would text me and be like, "Hey, are you gonna take another attempt? Like they're about to go up and wait again." And I'm like, I run back over there, take my next attempt, go back again. And then when they did the prizes last year, I ended up winning the cable crossover, but I
nice.
wasn't over by the booth when they called my name. I was literally, I think I was talking to Peter at Fringe, and I
No.
get a phone call, and he's like, "Dude, you won the big prize," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? I didn't win. I think I came in third in my weight class," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't realize I should have been paying attention, but I wasn't very distracted. Didn't
So
realize
did
it
you
was
not
just
win because you weren't present?
no, I ran over there, I ended up getting it. I had no way to bring that thing home though because it's so big. And then Derek from 50 Cal Fitness, that was his main thing he wanted from it. And I think the machine is like $4,000 or $5,000. And I'm like, I had no idea that I was gonna win it. And I told him like, hey, $500, it's yours. Go and take it.
Nice.
And he already had the trailer and everything. He was already like, I have the way to bring it home. I have everything. I'm like, here, gives me some spending money. I can go over around everywhere else and see what else I can pick up for discounted rates. And he gets the exact thing he wants for a major, major discount.
But either way, it is fun because like the U-Haul at French Lick had no equipment
Yeah.
because everybody went and rented it all. They were like, "Oh
Hmm.
my gosh, we can buy this," and they went and rented all the equipment. So definitely, if you're showing up to Home Gym Con KL10, I think I get a really small kickback on that. I'm usually buying stuff for my volunteers or equipment because it costs a lot of money to put that stuff on. So, hey, man, this has been for me at least, a super fascinating conversation for everybody else out there. Matt, somehow manages to consistently leave me in a point where, as we're talking on the phone, I am simultaneously Googling words uh, because I am just fascinated. I try to surround myself. I say this out loud, and I try to tell some of the younger guys that work for me that I try to surround myself with people that are more intelligent than me. That doesn't mean like overall I'm not calling myself dumb or anything like that, but Matt, you are truly one of the people that I just am blessed to know. You are hyper intelligent, not just on coatings, but just on gym stuff, the experience that you have, everything that you bring. I love the passion. I love everything. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, well, I appreciate all that. I mean, I think I just get hyper focused on this stuff and just can't stop myself
It
from
might
like,
just be ADHD,
yeah,
but
it's
who knows?
definitely like I'm just definitely down that rabbit hole and I'm like, I can't stop. And then I'm sure I'm on the phone with people talking and I'm like, I'm sure they didn't want to be talking to me about this for an hour and a half, but here we are, and I'm literally like packing up boxes, like chatting on in my AirPods and everything. But if they want to kind of like get in touch with me, they can go to my website, porterpef.com, or they can reach me out to me on Instagram, and that's porter_PhysEd, and then they can. So that's the best way to get in contact with me. I do have a TikTok and I have YouTube. I am going to be trying to post more stuff on YouTube. The plan is to actually like do like mini reviews and then actually do modifications to companies' products if I can get that going. So we'll see what happens with there.
That sounds awesome. And looking forward to it. I'll definitely watch. I try to support everybody that I care about on YouTube for sure. You'll always see comments and likes from me. So,
Yeah, awesome.
Matt, this has been a fascinating conversation. I appreciate everything. We've covered everything from what started Porter PhysEd. We talked a lot about your family, a little bit about your business. Actually, opposite of that, a little bit about your family, a lot about your business. We got really deep into coatings, which again, I really do think that PVD coatings are going to become more and more popular. I really see them as something that's valuable. And as we saw during this episode, like Bells of Steel is already making titanized, essentially PVD coated bolts for your rack. So like one small idea that I thought I was original on, Kayvon is beating me to the punch yet again. And again, the entire SS4 bar from Bells of Steel is black titanized. So I don't know how they're doing that, but if I could get my shoulder rock and my transformer bar that the clear zinc is officially worn off,
I mean,
coated, that'd be
if
pretty
you want to
cool.
spend enough money, I'm sure you can reach out to one of these companies and see if they have a big enough chamber. They'll take your money.
I'm sure they would. Yeah. But that's been it for this episode. Matt, I appreciate you taking the time. To everybody out there, I appreciate when you guys watch these things. These long format videos are something new. Right now, they're just on YouTube. If you want to see them in other places, let me know. I'll see you guys next time.